Good morning. You are watching Lookuptv. This is the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Kiage. Welcome to our show this morning. Keitany, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yes.
It's a good morning. It's pretty cold. Nothing much.
It's blessings that come with the rain, isn't it? We asked for it, so now we have everything. Yeah, should be happy.
Yet again, I remind you,
Oh,
if it rains, I'm Keitany.
as I. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us this morning with Keitany, as he says. Actually, that is his name. It's not what he's saying. Online at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiage Simba. Keitany, where you at?
At Keitany, of course, across all the platforms.
That's it. All right, but there's a lot that we're getting into this morning. We're going to have conversations around exactly what has transpired into the bipartisan conversations that are now going on. And Keitany, we've seen a couple of recommendations from both sides on who is going to lead these discussions.
Yeah, definitely. Immediately after both the president, that is Dr. William Samuel Ruto, and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, announced that they'll be engaging in a bipartisan approach on matters, especially IEBC, the Constitution. Yesterday, I think they retreated to select who will be part of the team that will represent both sides in the bipartisan engagements. So it will be interesting to know exactly what will happen thereafter. Who are the key names, because President William Ruto did meet with the House leadership. There is the majority leader, majority whip. There is Kimani Ichung'wah. There is Owen Baya for Kilifi. There is Senator Aaron Cheruiyot. I mean, he met both House leaderships from the National Assembly and the Senate. So it will be an interesting week ahead.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. But I've been reading news here of the story here at Mukumu Girls. Keitany, I know you've been following it. 2 students already dead?
Yeah. They say 2 are dead already, and at least 300, 400 are not in a good condition. And at first, they were talking about food poisoning, but as you can see here, as well on the dailies, they say it's following an outbreak of a yet to be disclosed disease that has killed 2 students and left several girls hospitalized. Yeah. So it's a developing story. You do know that the school was closed indefinitely yesterday. So investigations will continue, and at the end of the day, I believe we'll get to know, or after the investigations, we will get to understand what really caused the death of the 2 girls, because it's quite a sad story.
Some of the stories that we'll be following for you throughout the entire of our broadcast right here. More conversations coming along. Some of those stories that we're mentioning here, we'll be getting into them shortly on our daily's review this morning with Keitany. All right. Now we take a tiny breather. Once we come back, then we shall be jumping straight into the newsroom. We'll get to share with you some of the biggest stories that you are waking up to this morning. Good morning. President William Ruto has met with the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary leadership of both houses to discuss how to handle their proposal for a bipartisan approach to addressing the matters raised by the opposition principled as a priority. This comes barely hours after the former Premier Raila Amolo Odinga accepted President William Ruto's call to resolve the existing differences through legislators. Samia Dika opened the bulletin this morning.
Barely hours after the opposition chief Raila Odinga accepted his cardinal competitor call to cease their protracted mass action and give Parliament a chance to resolve the underlying issues, on Monday, President William Ruto met with leaders of both houses to chart the way forward of approaching the bipartisan approach he proposed in his state address on Sunday. President Ruto has expressed confidence that the raised issues will be conclusively solved by the legislators and give his government a chance to deliver its promises. Constitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) stands out as a major issue that the bipartisan parliamentary committee is expected to address with urgency. It was a meeting that was attended by the DP Rigathi Gachagua, National Assembly Leader of Majority Kimani Ichung'wah, and his Senate counterpart Aaron Cheruiyot, who have been strongly criticizing the Odinga-led mass action. As Odinga demanded for the release and dropping of charges against his allied lawmakers and supporters who braved the thick tear gas before being arrested, on Tuesday, DPP Nordin Haji moved with speed to drop the charges against Ugunja Member of Parliament Opiyo Wandayi and the cohort. According to Azimio, the DPP has also dropped cases against 200 Azimio protesters.
Yale tumesema hayawi, basi tumeambiwa kwamba serikali imeamua maofisi ule mkuu wa mashtaka ameamua kuondoa ile kesi kufuatilia ama kwa kutumia kipengele cha sheria inaitwa Criminal Procedure Code kipengele cha 87A ambacho kinasema kwamba serikali ikiwa haina ushahidi wa kutosha inaweza ondoa ile kesi mahakamani, na ndiposa wameomba.
Samedika, Lookuptv.
The ceasefire deal between President William Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga might have opened a door for further talks between the two. As Caribbean now reports, there could be a possibility of a handshake-like agreement between the two leaders who quickly agreed to bury the political differences and sit down for a dialogue.
The televised ceasefire agreement between President William Ruto and the Azimio Supremo Raila Odinga has continued to receive endless opinion from Kenyans. Among the key questions raised is how fast the two leaders easily agreed to bury their political stalemate and welcomed a dialogue despite their previous stands.
Lakini sasa ujole jamaa wanasema wana Azimio ati ni anarchist. Sisi tunataka kuharibu mali ya watu. Hapana. Wanatumia sisi polisi kuuza tear gas. Lakini sisi hatujali. Hatuwezi kutishwa.
From a political analyst Aman Manyora's point of view, there is a possibility that the duo had physically met and discussed more undisclosed issues before having a press conference on Sunday.
Our demonstrations are over. They are over because for two reasons. One, before they got where they got yesterday, they must have said something behind the doors, behind the tents. So they already know what can be and what cannot be achieved. The rest is playing to the gallery. They already know. So these talks cannot break. You can see if you follow the media appearance of William Ruto and Raila Odinga, you can quickly see there was already evidence that some things have been done already, but they are not being tabled in the press conference, in the media briefing.
Manyora believes that more agreement may take place in the future, which may result Raila Odinga and William Ruto completely burying their differences and working together in a handshake-like manner.
It's going to be the biggest handshake. Bigger than Moi and Raila, bigger than Kibaki and Raila, bigger than Raila and Uhuru. Bigger handshake.
When will that handshake be announced?
Sooner than before. And it will not even be announced. People just slide into it. It will just happen. It's a natural development.
According to Manyora, the truce could mean the end of demonstrations in the country, stating that should the handshake take place, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who have been working hard to prevent it, will be affected.
As Raila and Ruto become closer and closer, the distance between Rigathi Gachagua and Ruto will become more and more distant. They become less and less together.
Manyora has ever warned that should Raila Odinga fails to consider the matter keenly, his supporters whom he have been promising to stand with may lose faith in him.
There will be people from Azimio who will not agree with Raila going to bed with Ruto, and they will speak out. It will not be very easy again to bring them back to the streets. As powerful as he is, I think people are not happy with this ceasefire, mainly because it has not been explained well. They have not mainstreamed the people. And if they have, we have not been told how. It's not been even stated.
Shedrack Kareria, Lookuptv.
Nakuru business community have lauded Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party for calling off weekly anti-government protests. Agitated Azimio diehards maintain that Raila ought to have engaged his supporters, expressing fear of a looming handshake that is likely to compromise opposition. Let's listen in.
Tunataka waunganishe Kenya ili Kenya iweze kuongea na sauti moja na ili Kenya iweze kupiga hatua. Mkumbuke ya kwamba uchumi wetu umeenda chini sana. Wakati kuko na hii maandamano, hata wale ambao ni wawekezaji wanaweza kutoroka. Tunaamini ya kwamba wale ambao ni wawekezaji, investors wataweza kurudi na wataweza kuanza kuinvest.
Tunashukuru sana president wetu, tunakupa hongera, tunakupa heko, tunakupa mkono wa kusema ni asanti, na pia tunakusalute. Tunasema wewe ni president wa nguvu na wa power, kwa sababu wewe umeona Kenya ni kubwa kuliko mwananchi yoyote, kuliko mtu yote katika Kenya nzima. Ukasema wacha muweze kuketi chini muongee, lakini wakati mtakapokuwa mkiketi chini muongee ya kwamba mambo ambayo yanahusu mwananchi wa kawaida, mambo na unga, mambo na yale ambayo yanahitajika kama ni mafuta, mambo hayo ambayo yanasaidia mwananchi wa kawaida.
Maamuzi ya jana hayajanifurahisha, sababu sasa kama jana waliamua eti wameachana na mambo ya maandamano, bei ya unga imeshuka chini, gharama ya maisha imeshuka chini, sile rates yameweka kwa mambo ya correct revenue simerudi chini, bado sisi tunaendelea kuumia.
Tunamshukuru sana president kwa kukubali mwito wa kuongea, na alisema mambo ya kwamba chakula italetwe, na tunaelewa hii mambo yenye inaendelea ya dunia yote ni global, lakini wamejaribu vile wanaweza.
Tunaambia hao viongozi msifanye karata na maisha ya mwananchi. Maisha ya mwananchi sasa hii, the cost of living is very high na mwananchi anaumia. So wakati mmesema kuna dialogue ama kuna consultation, mkifika pale kwa meza tunawaomba tafadhali msiangalie maslahi yenu, angalia maslahi ya mwananchi kawaida. The cost of living sasa hii inaumiza, wananchi wanaumia.
Baba, tumesikia umeitwa huko State House. Na raundi baba, usitufanye nini ya chini chini hapo. Tunataka utoke hapo na clear information, because tulitoka kwa street kwa sababu yako, na sisi tunaumia hapa chini. So kama EKK government kama itatutoka na solution yenye itasaidia raia wa kawaida kama sisi wana bodaboda, bado tunangoja ile promise yenye ulitupatia.
All right, now let's move on to a sad story this morning. Mukumu Girls High School has been closed indefinitely after 2 students lost their lives and close to 500 others hospitalized following a bacterial infection said to have been caused by food and water poisoning. Abigail Shearer with that report.
A somber mood engulfed Mukumu Girls High School after 2 students succumbed to the diarrhea outbreak in the institution. According to the reports, the 2 girls died out of the bacterial infection, with the Ministry of Education led by Director Jared Otieno taking over the matter.
We would want our children to learn in a safe and clean environment, and we also would not want them to miss their lessons for a long time. And so we've agreed that we are going to suspend learning for some time as we address the key issues that we strongly believe have led us to this.
According to Kakamega Senator Boni Halwale, it is not the first time the incident is happening, urging authorities to get to the bottom of the matter.
I am here with the Directorate of Quality Assurance They investigated the issue last year, made findings, made recommendations, but those findings were not acted upon. And this is why this has recurred. In short, I'm saying it is failure of the administration.
On her part, Kakamega County Women Representative ordered that the school remains closed until the situation is dealt with.
Watoto tayari 559 hawako shule. Wamechukuliwa na wazazi. Na wengine 1500 wako hapa. Na situation sio ya kawaida. Ndio tunasema ya kwamba task force ifomiwe mara moja, a special task force, kuangalia zile shida zenye ziko kwa hii shule, lakini mara moja watoto wote wachukuliwe na wazazi waende nyumbani.
Muhanda further asked that the county government to intervene by ensuring that the students and the institution get the much needed help.
Tunaomba county government, tuko hapa na chief officer, wazazi hawana pesa mingi. Tunaomba ya kwamba wa extend an olive hand hapo kwa hospitali ya Kakamega, wakuwe na ward yenye wazazi hawatalipa watoto wao kutibiwa. Na hata hapa tuko na Mukumu Hospital, tunaomba watusaidie wazazi wanapochukua watoto wao.
Abigail Shira for Lookuptv.
Property worth millions of shillings was destroyed after fire blazed through dormitories in Rio Kindo High School in Keitany County. As more property was also burnt down after Udhari Walari Farm in Avasha was set ablaze by rival groups. Ian Keitany files that report.
Rio Kindo High in Keitany County. At around 6 in the evening, a huge fire swept through one of the dormitories with at least 300 students affected.
Moto ulitokea jana jioni saa 12:30. Tukakimbia tu hapa na community ikakuja, tukajaribu kusima moto. Ndio gari ya county ikakuja nayo ikajaribu kusima moto, tukaweza tukapambana na moto tukausima. Kwa uwezo wa Mungu hakuna mwanafunzi yeyote mwenye aliumia.
Those injured during the incident are receiving treatment as investigations are ongoing to establish the cause of the fire.
Ni wachache tu walipata maumivu ya kuona yale nduru wenye walikuwa wanapiga, wengine wanastuka wanaanguka chini. Wao ndio walipata tu hayo machanga tu madogo. Kwa vitu vingine kama mattress ziliokolewa, vitu vingine zilichomeka. Kwa ukiangalia tu mahali moshi ulianzia kutoka sehemu ya mbele. Hao ndio waliumia tu sana, vitu ziliungua sana.
Most of the students lost their belongings to the incident. More so, their beddings, with stakeholders urging the government to step in and help restore normalcy.
300 students were affected. We had 20 of them who were taken to hospital for hysteria to manage them, but they are now in good condition. That's what we are doing now. The board has started since morning to see how we can be able to return the institution to normalcy.
Nimepata mtoto wangu ako salama, hajaumia, lakini vitu zake zote zimechomeka, sanduku imechomeka, kila kitu imechomeka. Hana chochote, ila ni ile nguo tu anafaa yenye alipatikana akifaa ndiye ako nazo.
Elsewhere in Maimai, Nakuru County, property worth millions was destroyed after sections of the Udhari Walari Farm was set ablaze by herders in the area due to an ongoing feud between the local community and the owner of the property. According to the farm chairman, Stephen Meru, they lost property worth millions during the midnight attack organized by the herders, insisting that they had all the legal documents to prove ownership.
Wamechoma kila kitu, pikipiki zetu, mahindi, maharagwe ya watu wetu ambao wanaweka hapa, wameharibu. Na kusudi yao ilikuwa waharibu hii nyumba yote na ofisi yote, wakijificha usiku. Na hii ni maneno ambayo inajulikana, watu hao wanajulikana, na si watu ambao wanafanya hivi wakakimbia, wakaenda sijui Turkana wapi, manyumba zao ndio ile, nyumba ya mwingine iko pale. Kwa hivyo tungetaka hatua ya haraka ichukuliwe.
Some of the victims of the incident now want the government to chip in and help them, as all their property was destroyed with no place to call home.
Serikali tunaomba na tunajua inatusaidia, lakini kwa maana koti ilisema eviction na wakapatiwa 30 days waondoke na hawa kuondoka. After 30 days sasa imeenda karibu 90 days. Tunauliza the county commander ndio aliambiwa hawa watu watoke. County commander wa Nakuru unagojea nini?
Sisi tunaomba tu serikali watusaidie, watupe yani ulinzi ya kutosha ndio tuweze kuishi kwa mashamba yetu juu hii ni haki yetu.
Keitany, Lookuptv.
All right. Now, Kenyans continue to react to Raila Ruto Sunday deal that saw Azimio Brigade cancel weekly anti-government protests. Let's take a look at some of the reactions that we sampled from a majority of Kenyans right here in the capital of Kenya.
Today on Opinion Matters, we ask Kenyans about the decision of the Azimio leader Raila Odinga to have a sit-down with the President Ruto on the matters concerning Kenyans. And this is what they had to say.
Itatusaidia sana juu tulikuwa tunahangaika. Tunaona hata leo tumefungua na ni Monday. Last week kama leo hatukuwa hapa. So itatusaidia sana, naona ita increase ile stability. Tutafanya kazi. Mtu kama angekosa kuja leo atakuja kwa sababu anajua hakuna maandamano. So itatusaidia. Mimi naomba tu waendelee kuongea, waelewane ili tuendelee kufanya kazi.
Maongeo yako itarudisha tu political temperature chini. Watu wa kawaida waendelee na kazi yao. Yeah, their business as usual. That is it. Umejua hawezi teremusha bei ya mahindi, bei ya unga kama kuna mvua. Mvua ikiwa farmers watafanya kazi yao kwa mashamba, mahindi kwe ndio bei ya unga teremuke. Bei ya unga wezi teremuka kama hakuna mvua.
Kuongea pia ni sawa. Kama wataongea wasikizane na watusaidie kama wananchi shida zetu tunapitia, hamna shida. Kama bado hawatafikia suluhisho, itakuwa tu vyema tena tukiendelea na maandamano.
Mimi maoni yangu ningeonelea ni heri wakae waongee. Lakini wakae waongee ile kitu itatusaidia kimaisha kama upande wa chakula na kikazi. Wasikae waongee wenyewe wasaidiane, wasaidie sisi wakulima wadogo, maisha ishuke chini. Kukaa venye wamesema wakae pamoja wajadiliane, hiyo watasaidia Kenya sana, lakini maisha irudi chini. Hiyo ndio tunataka kama wakaaji wa Kalangware.
These are some of the opinions of Kenyans hoping that this sit-down will bring a lasting solution to the problems they are going through. For Lookuptv, my name is Abigail Shira.
So much that is coming up, including a review of the reactions from leaders across the political divide on the truce, or the seeming truce that now has been reached or is in the process of being reached between Raila Odinga and President Dr. William Ruto. That coming up shortly. Remember, online at Lookuptv, across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiage online. Let's take that break.
What's going on? Yuko na rafiki yake Musa.
Adam.
Huyu msichana wa watu, wewe umempangia nini?
Nani? Lazima tujue kwa jambo linalofuatia kwetu ni ndoa. Ndoa hii. Doris, unaongea nini?
Pia, vile hii kazi ilivyo muhimu kwako wewe, hata mimi halikadhalika ni muhimu.
Sitoshi. Kuna mtu hivi sasa anatafuta atakula nini leo?
Mama, nimesoma mama, nimehitimu mama, na vyeti vyote. Kwa nini naishi maisha kweli?
Wewe si family hapa. Kuzaa si kama kwenda haja.
The man!
Sasa naomba nifungulie mlango, alafu nisaidie kuweka hii kwa bute.
Kuna mtu nangoja na anakuja sai.
Enyewe hawa watu hawako fair. Mimi kwanza nasikianga wamenifika hapa.
Mali safi shafika.
Mali ndio yeye imeingia.
Hiyo sasa mbona unangoja nini? Sifungua mali. Wewe achana story.
Sasa nimekuaje kama mjafika?
Fungua. Nitakushinda kupiga kelele kama nyanya mzee amepoteza kufungua.
Niko na stress. Tena gani? Ni evidence gani atathibitisha ndio ajue kweli imehappen kwako?
Ati suspect. Mimi. Kwa nini? Mchimba kisima?
Mchimba kisima hiyo ni rahisi. Mchimba kisima si ni maji anatafuta.
Usiwahi cheza na mboga yangu. Na unafuata nani? Usikuone ukinifuata. Nimekwambia una shares kwa hii kuku.
You got the roof, man. Hebu kwanza rudi ndani ufresh hiyo chona, make sure umespray.
Juli, kwani wewe hii tumbo yako mimi najua inaweza ingiza kila kitu. Hata chuma nikishiaga nikupea, hata plastic najua utakula. Kwani leo kunaendaje? Kuna kitu sielewi.
Kabisa Mluya. Yaani umeamua kulala uchi.
Sasa kama hakuna ile nguo inanitosha unataka nifanye aje?
Because you are fat.
Sasa ukiongelea mimi ati fat, na Julie tutasemaje?
Kuja.
Well, welcome back to Lookuptv. In case you're just joining us, this is the Morning Drift on this 4th of April 2023, a time when the conversation is on what is going on in terms of reaching a truce between the opposition and the Kenya Kwanza government. Ian Keitany, good morning. Right, so there's a lot that we'll go through this morning. Let's jump into the Standard and see exactly what are the headlines on the Standard this morning. And the biggest story here is on how there is now hope after Demo Deal. The headline here is that after incessant pressure both locally and internationally, President William Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga climbed down from their position and agreed to dialogue, a move that has been received with jubilation across the country, with traders, church leaders and politicians hoping for long-lasting solutions. That story has been covered on both pages 4 and 5 of the Standard. And then I just want us to jump into that particular page so we can see what the headline is. I'm just jumping right there right now. All right, this is the details on that story. That Ruto and Raila truce loaded by many want hardliners kept off dialogue. Now politicians say that move will pave the way for fruitful negotiations, but ruled out a handshake. And Ruto and Raila allies asked them to ensure that talks are centered on the needs of wananchi. Now, Kenyans have also hailed the truce between President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga, saying that the move has calmed down political tension in the country. But then the bigger story here, Keitany, is the parties that have been selected by both teams to lead the bipartisan negotiations, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And, you know, just because we have both stories on both the dailies this morning, you know, I've been going through the story here on the Daily Nation, and it says it all began with, you know, emissaries, and they say Professor Makau Mutua was one of the members of, you know, the emissaries that were sent to meet President Dr. William Ruto. Though there are also unconfirmed reports that there was a telephone conversation between His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto and, of course, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga on Saturday, which they say it also included former President Uhuru Kenyatta. So you can clearly see that something was happening behind the scenes. As well, they're saying that these are also unconfirmed reports, but there are speculations that Mr. Ruto and Mr. Rigathi Gachagua declined you know, a round-table conversation with Mr. Odinga, that is, they decided that they will be forming a bipartisan team to, you know, lead negotiations, you know, surrounding the key concerns by the Azimio outfit.
Yeah.
So, you know, it remains to be seen. I'd really want to see some of the members who've been selected into that particular committee. There were reports yesterday. I was just, you know, scrolling. Again, these are unconfirmed because the names are yet to be released officially. That the likes of Mother Karua could be, Mother Karua and James Orengo could be in the team, the Azimio team, to lead, you know, talks, but definitely not in Parliament because they're not legislators. Yeah.
Also saw rumors of Senator Oledama Kina.
Yes, and
that it might be in.
Oledama Olekina has been very, very vocal ever since the announcements. He's been throwing jibes here and there on Twitter, so we'll see if his name will be on the list of, you know, legislators to engage in the bipartisan talks.
I'm telling you, man. And we're going to get into that particular conversation because I did see a couple of emotions and feelings about the names that have been suggested to appear on that panel for bipartisan talks between both sides, with the Kenya Kwanza side feeling a bit of heat with some of the names that have been presented by the Azimio side on it. I'm telling you, well, we're calling it a truce, but then Keitany, until we see the results, that's when we'll start saying that indeed the results have come out of this conversations, yeah? Because even the names for the teams have not been fully released. All right. Now, just highlights of this particular story that we're talking about here this morning. The Center, the business community lauds peace gesture, looks to recoup losses made during demonstrations with the hope issues will be ironed out. And then developments around this by the Keitany is that a DPP dropped cases against politicians that police are lined up for prosecutions of violence and property destruction. Also, the president convened a meeting of government leadership in Parliament to brief them on the goings and kickstart the formation of a bipartisan committee. And church leaders and US Senator Andrew Coons believed to have played the central role that got the two leaders talking. But on the second one, Keitany, the DPP dropping cases against politicians that have been lined up for prosecutions of violence and property destruction. Is it the results of the demands that were seen so far? What would be the results of the talks that have been aligned to continue around this particular one?
You know, even as of yesterday, because the leader of majority did, I mean, first of all, in terms of, you know, releasing those, dropping the charges of the legislators and those who were arrested during the protests, I believe it was one of, you know, the appeals by Raila Odinga when he addressed the media, when he was calling off the demonstrations. And then just to touch on that as well, on the issue of, you know, the talks. You have leaders from both sides, because the likes of Mr. Godfrey Osotsi is now saying that in his own, you know, suggestion is saying the committee should be, you know, chaired by an international expert. I don't know what he means by an international expert, but again, on the other side, Mr. Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah says that he believes the talks will be, you know, done with in Parliament in order to ensure that the government can focus on the economic transformation of the country. But as well, he rubbished, you know, talks that, or rumors that the bipartisan engagements meant that Mr. Odinga and His Excellency President Dr. William Ruto were headed for, a handshake. That is what they said. It's not about the handshake. We are not going for the handshake. We are just trying to address key concerns by the Mr. Odinga-led camp through Parliament.
Is that not a handshake? I've seen a lot of politicians really question exactly what this is. Because then, the word that we're using here is a truce, isn't it?
Yes.
The truth. Truth is, come, let's talk.
Yeah, but if you listened keenly to President William Ruto talk, his main address was on the reconstitution of the IEBC. But again, from his address, you could tell that maybe there could be more, or maybe not. But I personally would say his main concern was on the reconstitution of the IEBC.
Was that?
Yes. But again, Odinga, sorry to cut you short, Mr. Odinga said, or the former Prime Minister said, the issue of the cost of living is an irreducible minimum. Because President William Ruto was asked by one of the journalists about the high cost of living. And his response was interesting, because he talked about the government having registered 5 million farmers, there being 6 million bags of fertilizer, adding farmers who still have their, produces to sell them because the government will be importing maize pretty soon. So to me, and according to what Mr. Odinga says, the bone of contention here, apart from the issues on matters electoral, because there are electoral concerns by Raila Odinga and his team, and even the reconstitution of the new team. But again, the main bone of contention here should be the high cost of living. Simba.
Which, again, that's what I'm telling you. For us, the story here, Keitany, would be exactly what comes out of these negotiations, by the way. Because, Keitany, the details are there. Even when we're talking about the reviewing of the cost of living, it looks as if the Kenya Kwanza government is already giving out plans of exactly what they're doing. We listen to CS, agriculture. Mithika Linturi is talking about how the cost of flour is about to come down very soon enough. In fact, it is like 2 to 3 months. We've listened to President William Ruto is talking about how the continued efforts around supplying fertilizer to the farmers in the country is going to really affect the cost of living in the country in terms of bringing it down. So the story for us, Keitany, would be exactly what responses they get around this area. Because if you ask me, we've been reporting on these stories, Keitany, you've been out reporting on these stories, that there have been efforts that you can actually bring to paper, Keitany, when you're reporting your story on what the government has been doing around these areas. By the way, even on key areas like the subsidies that the Azimio Coalition has been pushing for, Keitany, you and I do know that indeed, when it comes to even fuel, the subsidies are still going on in the review prices that EPRA is giving us. So maybe it's going to be interesting to see exactly what this committee, by the way, Keitany, that has not been formed again, just to go into this 1 week conversation. You and I, you were counting that. You were saying, well, it's now beyond the 1 week. It's now what, 6 days left, isn't it, for the committee to be formed and then for them to have results, because Odinga did give them 1 week. If not so, then we're back to the streets again. But for us, it's just to report what the story is and see exactly what this is going to happen.
Yeah, and by the way, if you even look further into the story, we've had, Mr. Odinga's supporters from across the board, and one of his ardent supporters, that is lawyer DBK, DBK, Donald B. Kipkorir, was talking about, he wrote a tender, sort of a letter to Raila Odinga, telling Mr. Raila Odinga that he must get it right this time around. He should tame those people around him who are not helpful. And he mentioned some leaders who said should be the ones to lead the team. He mentioned the likes of Ole Kina, the governor of Makueni, Kivuta Kibwana. So there have been, talks about maybe Raila Odinga at some point, or the people surrounding Raila Odinga not being genuine enough or not meaning well for the country, and that is what DBK was talking about over there. But again, like you've said, we'll wait to see the outcome of the bipartisan engagements by both sides. So it will be an interesting week ahead, because time is as well of essence.
That's it. Keitany, just quickly, before you tell us exactly what the Daily Nation is talking about here, read that story on the closure of Mukumu Girls after the death of 2 students in what they're calling food poisoning and a bacterial attack around the school. Again, Keitany, big story here. And you did mention it in the newsroom the other day, and sort of people started laughing about it. Now, over-the-counter remedies that help the fight against sexually transmitted infection spread, that STIs are resisting the current treatment regimen, that's drug resistance, as more patients prefer self-medication. The patient with STI may seek treatment, which is ineffective as the bacteria has become smart and stronger. Read that story on page 3. Keitany, you're telling us that there are 2 new strains of STIs that... spoke about that story.
Yes.
Well, you don't comment here.
Let me say this.
There's a big story here on page 3. The other day in the newsroom, you were talking about how this is big news.
And this is a story. And Vijana, you know, for the youth out there, they make sure they read this story because, no, I think I should just say Mambo Imechemka.
Okay.
Mambo Imechemka.
That's it.
Find that story, read it. If you can't access a magazine or the local daily, go online. You'll find it.
Read that story, or you can talk directly to Ian Keitany.
No, not to me. Not to me.
That's page 3, but it's very, very important. Yes. Page 3 of the Standard. Yes. And Keitany, just tell us what is on the Daily Nation then, before we get into the big conversation this morning.
I think it's basically the same stories, but I just like to touch on some. The story of the Mukumu girls. You know, they say it has struck twice, because in May last year, 28 students from the same institution were hospitalized with fever and diarrhea. 28 in May last year. It's almost a year ago. It's like, let's say, 11 months ago. And again, this time round, 2 have died, and several admitted in a period of 1 week. And just to give you the details, one of the students who died here, and there's a photo of her, a 4-month student, a 14-year-old, I wouldn't mention the name, but she's from Kakamega County. A postmortem examination was done, and it is established that she died as a result of gastritis, that is a stomach inflammation. And as a parent, when you take your kid to school, your wish is that your kid gets proper education, proper studies. But it's pretty sad when you send your kid to school, but she's brought, or he or she is brought, for this instance, she's brought to you back in a casket. And I believe this is something that needs to be addressed, because if this this incident happened again last year, then there could be a problem somewhere. And it's up to the stakeholders to now come out big and address this issue. Investigations needs to be done. And if at all, whatever the outcome will be of the investigations, a lot needs to be done. But as well, because of time, now we're during the Elite Club, and this is a story on page 8 of the Daily Nation. It says, of course, it's an homegrown satellite that has been designed and developed by a team of Kenyan engineers. They say Kenya joins Africa's Elite Club as Taifa 1 satellite takes to space. Now, Kenya is set to launch its first operational Earth observation satellite, Taifa 1, next week. Kenya Space Agency Director General Brigadier Hilary Kipkosgei announced yesterday. Simba, we are not setting standards. We are setting standards, my friend. We are setting standards.
It's positive news.
Go and ask our neighbors if it's easy. We're setting up. We can now flex. We are flexing. We cannot flex. They cannot tell us much concerning all that. But it's a good thing, because according to the the Director General Brigadier Hilary Kipkosgei, he says the cost of the launch was within the agency's budget and is therefore affordable. So we'll see. It will be launched next week, I believe, next week on Tuesday. It will be launched next week on Tuesday, but not here in the country. As well, the Daily Nation has been giving you the views or excerpts from Mr. Isaac Hassan's book, and today, it talks about the day I almost sacked Oswago. That is Ahmed Isaac Hassan. We do know that Isaac Hassan was a chairperson, but as well Mr. Oswago was the CEO, and it says here, former IBC chair Isaac Hassan reveals how former CEO James Oswago and his personal assistant led a media campaign to cast aspersions on the integrity of commissioners while raising his profile as the main person behind the success of the Electoral Commission. Yeah. It reveals how then Prime Minister Odinga intervened to save Mr. Oswago from the sack. That particular story on page 2, 3, and 10, that is Mr. Hassan talking about, in his book, he says, a referee of a dirty, ugly game. This is a must-read book. And just on the back pages on the sports, today, all eyes will be on, I'd say this is a mid-table clash. James, I'm very, very sorry. This is a mid-table clash between Liverpool and Chelsea. It's a battle
Keitany,
for...
Keitany, this is a warning that I got to give
you. No. It is, listen,
you as our sports journalist right here on Lookuptv, you can't go out throwing emotive words like that.
Listen, objectivity. Listen. Now let me explain to you.
Oh my God!
I want the viewer to understand me. Understand where I'm coming from.
Yesterday we turned your mic off. You want Paul again to do the same thing today?
Liverpool, listen. Just for the viewer. Someone out there who doesn't understand what I'm talking about. Liverpool are 8th on the log and Chelsea are 11th. Is that not a mid-table clash?
Wow!
But tell you what, Chelsea will be playing against Liverpool tonight at exactly 10 p.m.
Yes.
These are two sides who are struggling to find their feet at the moment.
Yes.
And I don't want to talk much because United are now out of the top 4, but temporarily.
Good to have you join us on Heart to Heart.
We bring you stories of people who, despite the pressures they experience,